Industrial Steelmaking, 1850s, by Angélica Ladino Quiroga, Derecho Funza 3A, Teacher Leonardo Duque. History of the steel industry. The history of the modern steel industry began in the late 1850s. Since then, steel has become a staple of the world's industrial economy. Previously, steel was very expensive to produce and was only used in small, expensive items, such as knives, swords, and armor. Steelmaking was centered in Sheffield and Middlesbrough, Britain, which supplied the European and American markets. Bessemer process. This process is very interesting. The introduction of cheap steel was due to the Bessemer and the open air processes, two technological advancements in England. In the Bessemer process, molten pig iron is converted to steel by blowing air through it after it was removed from the furnace. The air blast burned the carbon and silicon out of the pig iron, releasing heat and causing the temperature of the molten metal to rise. Henry Bessemer demonstrated the process in 1856 and had a successful operation going by 1864. Henry Bessemer. Sir Henry Bessemer was a British inventor of French descent whose steelmaking process would become the most important technique for producing steel in the 19th century, being used for nearly 100 years. It also played an important role in establishing the city of Sheffield as a major industrial center. A problem? By the 1850s, the speed, weight, and quantity of railway traffic was limited by the strength of the work iron rails in use. The solution was to turn to steel rails, which the Bessemer process made competitive in price. Experience quickly proved steel had much greater strength and durability and could handle in the increasingly heavy and faster engines and cars. Britain and steel. In 1875, Britain accounted for 47% of our world production of pig iron, a third of which come from the Middlesbrough area, and almost 40% of steel. 40% of British output was exported to the USA, which was rapidly building its rail and industrial infrastructure. 2 decades later, in 1896, however, the British share of world production plummeted to 29% for pig iron and 22.5% for steel, and little was sent to the United States. The United States was now the world leader, and Germany was catching up the Britain. Britain had lost its American market and was losing its role elsewhere. Indeed, American products were now underselling British steel and Britain. The American steel industry 1850 1970. Kenneth Warren, writer, wrote this book in which he sets out in a clear and well organized manner valuable geographic information that leads to a greater understanding of the economic and historical patterns of the iron and steel industry. Conclusion: the steel industry is central to world economic development, and the 1850s were instrumental in the development of the steel trade. Thanks.